All right, thanks for coming out, everybody. Let's get the party started. A couple of years ago, one of our all-section meetings, Section 1 meeting, we were introduced to Mark and the message that he delivers about college recruitment. And this day and age, there's some different things that different colleges are looking for, and it's more so than just being a good athlete. From community service, from behavior on and off the field, and ultimately one of my favorite parts of his discussion are the statistics that different type of athletes have that go to these types of schools. For instance, a Division I softball player. What percentage of students in the country actually are Division I softball players? And he's going to throw some of these numbers out at us, and it's quite astonishing. I think you'll agree with it. But he's very real. He's very upfront. He really says it how it is, and I think that's probably the best thing for all of us, is to really get a gauge on where our student is, what level they're able to compete at, and then he provides some ways that we can also excel and to get exposure at all these different types of levels too. So Mark came in last year. This year I decided, this is Chris Elm from Haldane, the athletic director there. We agreed to put this on jointly and try to promote all of our student athletes and parents to come down. So thank you guys. We just think it's very important to give you some more knowledge on the college recruitment process. Mark came in last year, did a great job with us. We want to get him back. I'd like to make it an annual thing, because even if he did repeat stuff from last year, there's always the bits and pieces that you can brush up on and I can brush up on as athletic director here for the kids in Beacon. So without further ado, we have Mark Blyweaver.
Two things before we get started. The first is, was anyone there last year? Perfect, so you don't know that I showed up an hour late. We had a miscommunication on the start time. Believe me, I got a tremendous head start. I've been sitting in the parking lot for 25 minutes to ensure that I was not late. And then the second thing is, and I hate being the guy that does this, but it would be awesome if maybe you guys could slide down to these seats, just because it's so wide, and that's fine, but come on down so we can kind of focus here in the middle. That's great. So, here's how this is going to go tonight, okay? I'm a Major League Baseball agent. I am from Yorktown. I've played on these fields in the past. I have been very, very fortunate to spend almost 2 decades in professional baseball. You would definitely recognize some of the players that I and our firm, Beverly Hills Sports Council, represent on a daily basis. You know, Yasiel Puig and Salvador Perez, Hunter Pence, Major League All-Stars. I have Kirby Yates, the saves leader this season. Tommy LaStella, who's from New Jersey, was a Major League All-Star this year with the Angels. For those Yankees fans, your backup catcher next year, and he got a decent amount of playing time when Gary was hurt this year, Kyle Higashioka. Jordan Montgomery, who came back off Tommy John, my player. So, needless to say, I've been incredibly fortunate to make a career of professional sports, but when I tell you it started in this community, it started in Yorktown, it started in Westchester and Putnam and Rockland and Long Island and Bergen and Fairfield, which to me, there are no differences between those communities. The talent of the athlete is about the same. I get it. I know Torres was a first rounder last year out of Beacon. I realize as a guy from Yorktown that lacrosse is still ruling the landscape. There's always exceptions to the rule. But as someone who works in pro sports, as an agent who we had the #1 overall pick in the Major League Draft this year, Adley Rutschman, signed a record deal, $8.1 million, highest signing bonus in the history of baseball. I am very fortunate to see the best of the best. I'll be having lunch tomorrow in Stanford with a kid that got drafted in the 37th round for the minimum at $125,000 last year. So I see some of the ones that have to grind their way up. And I believe that because of that, I'm fairly qualified to give this presentation. Now, it is interactive. So, for starters, where are my student athletes? Raise your hand. Don't give me the half hand. Like, raise them high so I know where you are. Because you are going to be forced to participate. Now, the good news is for them, so are mom and dad. This is an interactive workshop, in my opinion. A lot of it is my opinion. I will let you know at what point in the presentation that it's a fact. We'll talk about statistics. There are times that I will say, you know, I think it might be X or Y, but I know for a fact this is how it goes. You might walk out of here with something to take home. You might walk out of here thinking this was a tremendous waste of time, and the only reason you might walk out of here with that impression is because I did not tell you what you wanted to hear. And that is why we have a bit of an issue. We have an issue out there because too often, the Mr. Giamettas, the Mr. Soloms, your guidance counselors, your principals, the people that choose to work in an industry where it is truly about your son and daughter, mom and dad, they are simply trying to give you their honest, professional opinion. But if you don't like to hear what they have to say, then they're the problem and let's go make an issue out of it. That's unfair. So the school districts, very generously, bring me in to basically deliver the same message they would tell you. And the sad reality is, too many people go to the ADs or to the guidance offices and say, so where should my kid go to college? Seriously? Like, that is not their job. It's not the job of the coach. It's not the job of the AD. It's not the job of the guidance counselor. It is your job as a family. By the end of tonight, I assure you, you will be able to do, and more importantly, control this process by yourselves as a family. I assure you. So, let's start with a round of applause. I'm serious. Give yourself a round of applause. Now, for the students, last night, the student figured out why. Anybody have any idea as to why I just said give a round of applause? Does anyone know who that round of applause was for? Do you? I love the baby blue on my Columbia sweatshirt. Any idea why that round of applause was just requested?
No.
Do you know who it was for?
No.
Anybody have an idea who it was for? Go ahead.
Us.
Exactly. You. Do you know why? I told you I sat in that parking lot for 25 or 30 minutes. I watched parents pick up their children and drive away. Athletes. And I guarantee you, if I knocked on somebody's car window and said, hey, do you know that there's a presentation going on inside about college athletics? Oh, yeah, I know that. Does your son or daughter want to play in college? More times than not, they're going to say yes. So why are you not in this building? Why are you out there? I'll tell you why. They got it all figured out. Their kid's going to get a full scholarship. They don't need to come in here, listen to me, be educated. It's a waste of time. They know what they're doing. And so that round of applause is for you because if anything, it shows me, it shows the athletic directors that you don't know it all. You are truly here for the best interest, mom and dad, of your son or daughter. You want to learn, and that's awesome. That is half the battle. And I promise you, you are going to have better than a puncher's chance to be a collegiate athlete than the mom and dad that thinks that they have it all figured out for their son or daughter. And when you run into that parent at the Stop and Shop 2 Thanksgivings from now and say, hey, how's it going in college? And it didn't work out, it was the coach's fault, it was this person's fault, zero accountability, sound familiar? You're not going to be in that boat. You're not going to be in that boat. So, stats don't lie. Before I read some of these statistics, which these are facts, I have a question for all the student athletes. You have option A and option B. It's going to be a theme all night. I'm going to give you two choices. For all the student athletes, you got to pick one or the other. Option A is college coach says to you, congratulations, you've made our team. There's the end of our bench. You are here exclusively as a practice player. You will not play as a freshman or a sophomore. You'll get garbage time as a junior. We'll give you a token start for the effort as a senior. But you are here to make our starters better. There is no scholarship. That's option A. Option B, college coach says you come in as a freshman, you're going to compete for a spot. As a sophomore, we expect you to start. A junior, you're a regular in the lineup, and by the time you're a senior, maybe you're an all-time record holder, maybe you're a team captain, you've been to a couple of postseasons. That's option B. Who wants option A? Who wants option B? Every one of these student athletes I've been here for less than 10 minutes just told me they want to play D2 and D3. And so I have to ask the next question. Simply, who wants to play Division I more? The student or mom and dad? Because if these students just told me that they want to play D2 and D3, then why are we chasing this white whale unicorn called a Division I scholarship that you're trying to tell me and your athletic directors that that's what your kids want? I just proved in 10 minutes that's not what they want. They want to play. They want to see the field. And I'm going to prove it with some statistics. These are the percentages of high school athletes who earn a spot on a men's or women's Division I team. Less than 3% for football, water polo, field hockey, lacrosse, golf, swimming, track, soccer, and cross country. Less than 2% for baseball, softball, and tennis, and less than 1% for basketball, wrestling, and volleyball. Any ice hockey players here? Great, 5% chance for you. You got the best odds of playing D1. Okay, these are real stats. These are not manufactured, they are not exaggerated, they are not made up. These are real. This will be the most sobering statistic I give you all night. There are 130,000 high school seniors playing baseball coast to coast. If I don't set these alarms, we will be here till 10:30. The only good part about the Yankees losing is that I'm not up against them tonight. And I've got 3 guys on that team. So, there are 130,000 high school seniors playing baseball coast to coast in this country. Okay? I chose baseball of all those sports I just gave you because they've got the highest probability of success. So of the 130,000 high school seniors, 9,800 of them will go on to play at a 4-year college. That is Division I, Division II, Division III, and NAIA, which is a collegiate classification, more or less in the Midwest, combined. All of the Division I, II, III, and NAIA schools, 4-year schools combined, will have 9,800 kids that go from being high school senior baseball players to college freshman baseball players. All of the percentages for the sports that I mentioned are less than 7.5%. That is what the translation of 9,800 from 130 is. 7.5%. A better way to put that is 92.5% of all of the seniors playing the sport that you play that move on and play at a freshman for a 4-year school level, they're not going to make the team. So that's D2. That's D3. The same level these kids, because that's what they are, just told me where they want to play. So the next time we want to scoff at the fact that a D2 or a D3 is below us, oh, Oneonta, give me a break. Mount St. Mary's down the road, that's a joke. Mercy College, it is going to be the most remarkable, achievable athletic accomplishment in any one of these young men or women's lives to be the worst Division III player on the worst Division III team in America. That's a fact. And you don't have to drive 5 or 6 hours up to Boston, out to Buffalo, down to Baltimore to go check out a program. Go watch any one of those sports that I just said, any one of those 3 colleges I just referenced, and go see how big and fast and strong and smart those athletes are. And when you are 17 or 18 years old trying to crack a roster, as a freshman at a 4-year college, you're not going to be playing against a kid or two that is maybe a year or 2 older than you. 18-year-olds are going to play against 20 and 21-year-old adults, men and women who are looking to stick it to some new rookie freshman that they're not going to get beat or shown up by. That's what you're up against, with 3, maybe 5 spots open on a team. 36 kids trying out. That's what you're looking at. Now, I am in no way at all trying to create this doom and gloom scenario that Division I is impossible. And I promise you, I will conclude this presentation tonight with a D1 scholarship offer. I'm going to give you a D1 scholarship offer, and I'm willing to bet that the offer I put on the table is not nearly as good as where we are going to find a place to get ourselves recruited and go and enjoy a great 4-year college experience. I will show that by the end of this evening. So let's get going on the class participation now that we know that our student athletes want to play D2 and D3. And at the end of the day, when everyone says to me, well, you know, it's really all about the education, I certainly hope that if it's truly about finding the right college, dare I say the perfect college for them, that is about education. But for me, I think it's more about education and experience and where they're located geographically. And sure, if there's an opportunity to play, these are going to be the friends they make for life, the experiences that earmark their future. That's what college for me is about. And the opportunity to play, that is a bonus. But to put them on a path to succeed and find that perfect environment, that's going to be the challenge for the family. And that's what we'll go through tonight. Part of this presentation, as a guy that has to go sit with 18-year-old kids who just got drafted last June at an Applebee's in Johnson City, Tennessee, and try to have a conversation with an 18-year-old kid who just respectfully looks up to me because, you know, his cell phone is in front of him and he realizes I'm in town for 45 minutes to buy him a free lunch. I get it, Mom and Dad. It is hard to have a conversation with your son or daughter. They are checked out. They're all about Fortnite and FIFA and not wanting to have a conversation with you. I deal with it every day too. Okay? So part of this is how can we put some questions and answers in place to truly extract the information from them. That's why I say it's a workshop. Okay, I've already picked on you, so where's another student for me? Where are the students' hands again? You guys in the back, student? Okay, you've also participated, so read for me what number 1 says.
Right in student body size.
Now, there's no wrong answers. What do you think that means? Right in student body size. Good, you try to figure it out first. What do you got? Student body size, I promise you it has nothing to do with athletic build. And I'll give you a little, I'll cheat a little bit. How many students, Mr. G, go to this school? What's student body?
700 to 800?
700 to 800. Okay, so what do you think is right in student body size means?
How many students are?
How many students, man? How big, how small? Is it going to be a huge school? Is it going to be a small school? Is it going to be a moderate-sized school? Look, you guys are 700, 800. Arlington down the road has almost 4,000. They got 2 varsity levels, A and B. Okay, totally different situation. Big school, small school. So I'm going to show these students what college is going to look like, because that's another thing they're not ready for. Taking a nap or texting your way through 43-minute algebra, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is I'm going to be a professor. There's going to be a whiteboard up here, and I'm going to be going through a 70-minute lecture, almost double what you're used to in a building like this. 70 minutes, 3 times a day, 3 times a week. That's your learning environment. And so you're going to have to choose, how do I best learn? Is that going to be, I'm the professor, front of the room, not only is every seat in this auditorium taken, there's 10 more rows of seats, and there's 150 to 250 students in that lecture hall. That could be option A. I'm the professor, you've got your hand up, I'm going to ignore it because I got to get through this presentation in 70 minutes teaching 200 other people. And if I do call on you and say, yeah, what's your question? You better be ready for 149 students to turn around and stare at you. You better be on point with that question. That's learning option A. Learning option B might be right here. 15, 20, 30, 40 students. I'm the same professor. You got a question? Oh, that's interesting, Jim. So, Mary, what do you think about that? Emily, you want to weigh in on that? Totally different learning environment. And it's not for one class or for 1 week or for 1 month. It's for 4 years. What is the best learning environment for you, the student? Is it the enormous lecture hall, or is it something maybe a little smaller, 20, 30, 40, 50 students? Option A, option B. Which of these students here, raise your hand, is taking option A? Which is taking option B? We have our second unanimous vote of the evening, which is these students just told me they would rather prefer a smaller school. Okay, smaller school is probably, I don't know, 7,000 students or less. I went to Stonehill College outside of Boston. I had a chance to play 4 years as a non-scholarship Division II athlete. Played baseball, team captain. 2,300 students at that school now. It was 2,100 when I was there. Oneonta, 6,600. Okay, it's not Cortland State with 25,000. I mean, they've got their own zip code. The SUNY Cortland School has its own town. It's not that with huge lecture halls. Certainly not Syracuse. It's not Boston College. It's 6,600. And I will tell you, the campus that I went to, because I've seen both campuses with 2,200, about the same size. Same sprawling I got to get from A to B in 25 minutes. So, since all of these students just told me that they're looking for a school with 7,000, and we were able to extract that information, I think, pretty easily, we have the first step in our recruiting process. We are focused on schools with less than 7,000 students. Everybody with me so far on that? Perfect. Okay, so we have one here in the back. Read for me, please, number 2. This is the toughest one because of the word that you're about to say.
Comfortable proximity from home.
That's an SAT, ACT word, proximity. What do you think that means?
Distance,
By the way, we're hitting our mark. Look at that. That was pretty well timed.
like the distance from.
The distance from home. A lot of times when people answer that question, they say, how far from home? They never say how close to home, mom and dad. They say, how far from home? How far away from mom and dad can I get? So I'll ask you, what year are you? What grade are you in?
Junior.
So you're a junior, so this is going to get real in the next 10 months. Do you have any idea how far away from home you want to be?
I think I want to stay in New York.
You want to stay in New York?
But
Okay.
farther.
A little further. Okay, so she wants to stay in New York. My guess is she's not necessarily looking to go to SUNY Newburgh, right? Or New Paltz, right? Which is down the street, okay? But, you know, Buffalo's like a 6-hour ride, okay? And, I don't know, Long Island, depending upon where you go, That could be anywhere from a 90-minute ride to a 3.5, 4-hour ride, right? She knows New York. That's a great start. By the way, this is a real-life, real-world answer. I want to stay in New York. Okay, is it 20 minutes away or is it 2.5 hours away? Anybody else? Does anybody know how far they want to go or where they want to go geographically? Yes.
4 hours away.
You said 4?
Yeah, 4
Okay.
hours. You know, that's right. 4 hours. That's not far enough. Yeah, I was looking at the distance of those cars. 4 hours, probably. You know, around like maybe Cortland or Alfred State, around those.
Okay.
areas.
And do you have to stay in New York or would you get out? Would you go up to New England or down toward Baltimore? And those are all about 4 hours.
Honestly, stay in New York. You know, I feel like staying in New York is
Okay.
good.
That's good. I mean,
Good
look,
for
this
me.
is half the battle, having an idea. Does anybody want to get out of New York State like I did? I just wanted to go up to New England and get toward Boston. I had to get rid of that accent. People can never figure out where I'm from. Does anybody want to get outside of the New York area? Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont. You're raising your hand. What do you have? What are you thinking?
Somewhere in like the west coast.
Okay, so like West Coast, like California, or just west of here, like Pennsylvania?
West of here.
Okay, west of here. So you don't necessarily have to go to Los Angeles or San Francisco, but maybe it's Ohio, right? It's just out of the area. I will say, using your example, all right, look, I'm not trying to spend your money, but I can go on average that from an athletic perspective, there's a really, really good chance that from the time these young men and women are in 8th or 9th grade to the time they graduate, conservatively as a family, you've spent $10,000. You've spent it on showcases, you've spent it on travel teams, you've spent it on private instructors, you've spent it on lodging, you've spent it on gas, you've spent it on food, right? At the end of the day, if you added up all those receipts over 4 or 5 years, you've spent 10 grand, okay? I would say to you, since I know you're already spending the money, that if you had a student, you had a son or a daughter who was like, I want to go to Florida, I want to go to Chicago, I want to go to Cali, right? I'd say go. I'd say go get that Southwest flight, fly out of Stewart Airport, okay, JetBlue, whatever it might be, invest a couple of bucks in that, drag them out of bed at 4 in the morning, get them to the airport at 5:30, make them wait through a 60 to 90 minute TSA line, get them on a plane that probably has a layover, get them to the city. Now they're looking at a 10, maybe a 12-hour travel day. They're beat by the time they get there. Go to any college campus in that city because that part's really irrelevant. It's just, let's just get to a college and kind of see what that commute looks like. Spend one day and then come home the day after. You know what that's called? Coming home for the weekend. That's what it is. That is what it would look like. And what happens is we take one trip, maybe two, to that Florida, to that Cali, to that Chicago. Forgetting that, that's not going to be 1 or 2 trips. It's going to be 6, 7, 8 times as a freshman. 4, 5, 6, 7 times as a sophomore. 2 or 3 maybe as a junior, 1 or 2 times as a senior. You're talking about 20 round-trip flights and just overall travel to wherever city you're planning on going to. And that looks a lot different than getting in the car at 8 o'clock in the morning, just north of Boston, and being back here by noon. So when your girlfriend tells you she won Jonas Brothers tickets on Z100, and the show's at MSG tonight, and you can leave and get there, I'm not saying you make your college decision-making process of how far you should be based on winning tickets on Z100, but I think you get my point. I always like to make the joke that if all of you got in the car, and you've all gone on travel ball trips, you've all been on that 2, 3, 4 hour ride. Everyone gets in the car, everyone's doing their own thing, and you all realize that nobody has an iPhone charger or a Mophie. The battery's gonna die at some point. 2, 3 hours from now. At what point does that battery die? Is that kid ready to get out of that car? Because they're not falling for the license plate game like we used to play, okay? They need to be watching something. So for the purposes of having, you want to stay in New York and you gave me a couple of hours, you gave me 4, let's just call it 4 hours. It doesn't have to be 4, it could be between 2 and 4, 3 and 4, but we know as a group, less than 7,000 students, within 4 hours of right here in Beacon. We have a bit of a profile. So I'm going to warn you in advance, this is a trick question. Let's see if you fall for it. You're at a college showcase, it's in Hartford. Okay? Don't care the sport. And this college coach tracks you down afterward and says, look, you were the best player on the field, on the court, in the pool, whatever. You blew me away. We are graduating 2 kids that play your position, and so by the time you're a freshman, I really believe you could be a contributing member to our team. That profile, compete as a freshman, start as a sophomore. How many people would consider that engagement from the college coach, that interest? Who would consider that recruiting? Raise your hand if you think that's being recruited. It's not a Division I, by the way. Who considers that being recruited? Just the 3 of us? Okay, a few more people. I think it's being recruited. Why the heck are you at this showcase anyway? You're trying to get discovered, right? You're trying to get the attention of that college coach. I believe in that example, you have gotten yourself recruited. You had a coach come up, introduce themselves, and say, I want you to come visit. I don't care if it's D1 or NAIA. It's being recruited. Here's the curveball. You should be fired up. You're excited. I did my job. I got their attention. The curveball question is, you say to the coach, Coach, can you tell me a little bit about your school? Absolutely. We're located in Buffalo, New York. Okay, from here, Buffalo is probably about a 5.5, 6 hour ride. And our student body population undergrad is 12,000. Okay. So we've got a school that's an hour and a half or 2 hours further than what we just decided we wanted. And we have a school with a population of 5,000 more students than we want. How many people are going to that school in Buffalo on that recruiting trip? Be honest with me. Exactly. And I don't blame you, and I don't blame the 2 guys in the back because they are students. They want to go because they love the attention, they love the swag, and they absolutely earn the opportunity to go on that trip. But Mom and Dad, I hope you see where I'm going. We just identified schools that are within 4 hours, under 7,000. And we have a coach, a Division III coach, where there's no athletic scholarships, telling us that they want to come visit a school that's too big and too far for our son or daughter. I'll make 2 quick points right now. The first point is every single one of these student athletes is going to be on a full scholarship. Any idea who's providing that full scholarship?
Yes.
Mom and Dad, to the tune of $100,000 to $150,000 to $200,000 plus over a 4-year experience. I don't care if you're getting some grants or you're getting some financial aid, that's what the bottom line is going to be. That's number 1. So I hope that if we were going to invest that type of money over a 4-year commitment, it's not to some Division III coach at some school that's too big and too far for our son or daughter. We haven't talked about academics at all. We haven't talked at all about extracurriculars. And honestly, how many people do you think that coach is saying to? It's a bunch for 3 or 4, maybe 5 roster spots for a freshman. We need to dial in a little more specifically as to what the big picture and what's most important in this process. Now, for the students that raised their hand and said they'd go on that trip, that's okay, and here's why. Every student athlete in here, and the ones that aren't, they have 3 responsibilities. The first responsibility is to be the best athlete they can be, on the field and off it. So that means in the game situation and also in the practice situation, in season and out of season. Only they can control how hard they're going to work, how much they're going to practice, what they're going to do in the weight room. That is responsibility A. They have to take that same desire, that same level of commitment, and they have to apply it in the classroom. They have to bust their butt in the class, stay for extra credit, stay and maybe get, if you need a tutor, whatever. Show up early and ask the teacher to help you. Invest a little bit in an ACT, SAT, whatever. But they have to 100% be on top of their game as academic student athletes. And the last part of their equation, their last responsibility, is the one that gets the most overlooked. And in my opinion, the easiest one to do. And that is get out of Beacon High School, get out of the home, and contribute to society. Get out there and be a good person. Character matters more than ever. So, volunteering with special needs, volunteering with inner city and underprivileged, volunteering with animals because you love pets, there's an ASPCA nearby. I don't care what you do, character matters, and it's sometimes the difference between getting into a college and getting a rejection letter. So, that's their responsibility. The rest of everything we're talking about, Mom and Dad, 1 through 4, this is on you guys. So we got 7,000 within 4 hours. Let's talk majors and minors. Where's the students? Right here? You didn't go. Read for me what number 3 is.
I have the desired field of study.
What do you think that means?
Desire to learn.
Yes, in college, what year are you? What grade are you?
June.
So do you know what they call it in college when you choose what you want to study? Do you know what that's called?
Major.
Major. And then do you know what the other one is?
Minor.
Minor. Major and minor. That's what we're talking about. Desired field of study. I am certain of this, another fact, that they don't have to declare their major as a freshman. They oftentimes don't have to declare it as a sophomore. They usually don't have to say what they're going to major and minor in until they're a junior. So why would you expect a 13 or a 14 or a 15 or a 16-year-old child to know what their major is? I think that's slightly irresponsible. I'm all about dreaming big. We got kids that want to be doctors and veterinarians and engineers and scientists, whatever. Okay? Anybody know what they want to do? Raise your hand. Anybody have an idea what they want to do for a living yet? Anybody? Don't be afraid. What do you want to do? You want to be a cop? So you want to go into law enforcement. Okay? So things like criminology are going to be important. Sociology. Probably some things that, English is going to matter. I was in New York City today, and I am now 5 from my last 5 parking in the city, getting a ticket. Somebody's got to write up that ticket. English matters. Communication matters, okay? So for you, you know that you might want to go into law enforcement, right? I think one of you guys raised your hand, no? Any idea what you'd like to maybe do?
In the same area.
Same area, okay. So if we now decide, because we are 16, 17, 18 years old, that we are just going to focus on John Jay Criminal College because we think at that age we only want to be a police officer, and she comes home Thanksgiving weekend, and between past the mashed potatoes she says, I want to change my major, we're in trouble. We have no room for an audible because we went to a school specialized for law enforcement. But if you pick a school because we mentioned criminology, maybe she decides she wants to be a lawyer. Maybe she decides she wants to be a parole officer. Maybe she decides that she wants to go into education and teach those types of things. Same thing with him. We have more range. There are going to be plenty of schools that have criminology, sociology, English, okay? Now, here is, I think, a more appropriate way to try to find out what somebody might want to major and minor in. Show me the students' hands again, because I haven't picked on someone, and I hate to just kind of ambush you guys. You just walked in. Okay, here, we'll try you again. You ready? What's your best subject? What do you get your best grades in?
Math.
Math, okay. What is your favorite subject?
Probably math.
Okay. What is the next subject you get the best grades in?
English.
English. And what is your second favorite subject?
English.
Okay, so we have a student here who math is his best subject, English is his next best subject, and oh, by the way, he happens to like them. There are going to be dozens of colleges that will have math as a major, accounting as a major, business as a major, English as a minor, communications as a minor, literary as a minor. There are going to be dozens, probably upwards to 100. There will be dozens to upwards of 100 schools that will have less than 7,000 students, that will be within 4 hours from right here in Beacon, that will have math and have English as majors. That is starting to pre-qualify ourselves. I know everybody's here to be recruited. If this group, the parents in this room, were going to go out and they were going to buy a new SUV in preparation for the winter, didn't matter if it was a Jeep, an Explorer, a Tahoe, Chevy, Ford, whatever. They just know they're going to go out and they're going to buy a $65,000 brand new 4-wheel drive SUV. You are not walking into that showroom and just grabbing the keys off of someone's desk and driving off the lot. They are going to make you show your credit to see if you can buy that vehicle. They are going to run your license to make sure you don't have DUIs or that you don't have points on your license and that it's a liability. They are going to what's called pre-qualify you before they hand you those keys. What we are doing right now are pre-qualifying ourselves to earn the right to be able to speak to these college coaches and be recruited. That is what we're doing. So we have nailed 3 parts of this process. Now for me, this is the most interesting one. This is the one that truly makes a difference, in my opinion, on a student athlete's happiness and possibly getting that call and saying, I'm kind of miserable here. Do you guys have the handout?
Yeah.
Let's give those to these guys here in the back. If you don't mind, here, I'll get you a couple. I know that there's a student somewhere that I have not called on. You have it. You've raised your hand once or twice. Right? Read for me what number 4 says.
extracurricular opportunities.
What do you think extracurricular means?
After school stuff.
Yeah, things that you choose to do, right? Extracurriculars. I don't think sports is an extracurricular, okay? And certainly going to class, that's not an extracurricular. But things that you choose to be a part of. It could be the student senate, it could be the band, it could be some of that volunteer work I talked about. Whatever you choose to be a part of, that in my opinion is an extracurricular. Well, I'm going to give all of these students an option A or an option B. Option A, you get to go on a trip with all of your best pals. There is 0 parental supervision. Parents have nothing to do with this trip. So it's your best friends. You get to crush as much pizza as you want. You get to eat as much candy as you want. You can just do, quite honestly, whatever the heck you want to do that entire weekend, and it's up in the mountains. You're skiing and you're snowboarding and you're sitting by a fire and you're eating all this junk food, and it is literally just the best day and weekend of your life. That's option A. Option B is still no parents, still all the pizza and the junk food, still like just no supervision and all your best pals. But it's an environment a little warmer. It is not Miami Beach, but it's like those spring days you get in March and April where it's 74 or 76. Everybody busts out the shorts and the tank tops, and then the next day it's 43 and drizzling. But it's warmer, okay? It's warmer. And so maybe you go for a hike. Maybe you go play around a golf. Maybe there's a little beach volleyball court in the middle of a park, and so you guys do that for an afternoon. How many people taking option A in the skiing and the snowboarding? None, huh? Well, how many are taking B in the warmer climate? Perfect. Another unanimous, which is actually maybe a first. There's a lot of people that do enjoy the skiing and the snowboarding. To me, an extracurricular can be that simple. If we are talking about colleges that are going to be 4 hours from Beacon, the spring in Baltimore starts way sooner than the spring in Syracuse. And the fall lasts way longer in Baltimore than it does in upstate New Hampshire. Okay? Their environment, where they are going to want to get off campus and hang out with friends and do their own thing and start to grow as young adults, because they are going to fail tests. They are going to be brokenhearted. They are going to play the worst game of their life. Hopefully not all on the same day, but it's going to happen. And when it does, they are going to need a release. And if that release is going to that beach volleyball court, going on that hike, going to the shore, because some of those things are not going to be available in Potsdam, in Buffalo, in Manchester, New Hampshire, because it's cold and it's dreary and it's just miserable for them because they're not into the colder weather and have no interest when all their friends are going to a ski and snowboarding trip. They don't care. That's when you're going to get the call. I'm miserable. But if you put them in that environment because they like the warmer weather, and these guys have said 4 hours, 4 hours south is Baltimore, is Delaware. Depending upon how fast you drive, maybe on the cusp of DC. Or at least, between Philly and Baltimore. It's not Syracuse. It's not Albany. It's not Boston and the upper New England states, even though those are all 4 hours away too. So for me, I'm looking for a college that's got less than 7,000, 4 hours from here, that has math and English, that's going to be in a warmer weather climate. Not Miami Beach, but warmer. It's going to be warmer in the mid-Atlantic than it's going to be in the upper Northeast. I'll also say this, and hopefully the smart mom and dad can figure it out. You are going to send these kids, who have really never left the bubble of Beacon, onto a campus 4 hours away with 7,000 strangers, and you've got no say over them. They are going to be exposed, likely for the very first time in their life, to their own extracurriculars. And I think the smart parent can read between the lines in what I'm saying. So if that is the case, wouldn't you want to be them or have them be in an environment where they are most comfortable and have the best chance of succeeding? Just my opinion. So we have come to the moment that everybody came here for. This is the recruiting part. Well, I think we have identified what we are looking for. In my opinion, we have pre-qualified ourselves to call any coach at the Division II or the Division III level, because there really are no scholarships at D2. Yes, I get it, there's a few. I went to Stonehill. The only scholarship sport at Stonehill was basketball. That's it. okay? And that was a theme through the conference. Stonehill wasn't much different than St. Anselm's or Merrimack or Bentley or St. Michael's. There's a whole conference. Mercy's in a similar one, St. Rose, Lemoyne, schools like that. We have pre-qualified ourselves to call that coach. Now, let me tell you something about the D2, D3 coach. They are very rarely, like less than 5% of the time, they are a full-time coach. They might have a full-time job on campus, they're the associate AD, they're the equipment manager, they run the rec center, but then they're also the coach. So they are not full-time, their assistants are definitely not full-time, they are overworked, they are underpaid, they are understaffed, and probably more than anything, underappreciated. And oh, by the way, do you really think that the coach, not to pick on the Oneonta coach, but I just donated some Yankee tickets to their women's lacrosse program, so I get a chance to do it. Do you honestly think that if that coach, who is doing well and working hard to be the head coach of the women's lacrosse team at Oneonta, got a phone call from Syracuse or Boston College offering them the associate head coach's job, she's going to turn it down? No shot. She's gone. Oneonta is a stepping stone to whatever's going to be next. So that same coach that wooed you and recruited you and told you were the best, yeah, that coach is left. And a new sheriff comes into town. That might not work for you. So we have to take this process very, very seriously. And we have to put the process in the hands of our agent. I told you what I do for a living. I'm a major league agent. I have roughly 100 clients that I deal with sometimes every day. There are no days off. For those of you that remember the movie Jerry Maguire, Jerry Maguire is a fictitious character. I'm a lot more like Bob Sugar, and Bob Sugar was a pretty good agent. So, I'm not the only agent in this room anymore. Every student athlete that I'm looking at is now an agent. And unlike me with 100 clients, they have one. Any idea who their client is? Who's your client?
Us.
Yourself. You have to be your own agent. You absolutely positively have to know your brand. You have to know your player. You have to know the pros, you have to know the cons. You have the strengths, you have to know the weaknesses. You have to know how to sell your client to that coach. And if you fail because you are not prepared, if you choose to try to cut corners and skate, you will be exposed and you will be let go. You will not be taken seriously. And so, talking to a generation of individuals who cannot have a conversation eye to eye. They cannot maintain eye contact. They cannot sit across from you and talk about something that they're just not that interested in. And oh, by the way, amplify that on a college visit in front of a coach with the nerves and the anxiety and everything else that goes with it. This is their first job interview. And I will tell you this, that if they are not prepared to have that 5 or 10 or 15-minute conversation after you drive up to Oneonta or Stonehill or down to Hood College outside of Baltimore, and you take the hour and a half or 2-hour tour at 2 o'clock, ends at 3:45, and you set yourself a meeting with a coach at 4 o'clock, if they are not prepared for that, I promise you, you are not going to make the team in that meeting. You're going to have to show up on campus and try out like everyone else. While you might not make the team that day, I promise you this, if you are not prepared for that conversation, you can get cut from that team like that before you even leave the office. So, how do we recruit ourselves? How do we as agents get on the radar of the general manager, in this case the coach? Hi, Coach Bowen. This is Mark Lineweaver. I'm a junior at Yorktown High School in Yorktown, New York, and I'm calling to let you know that my family and I are coming up to visit Stonehill College on November 18th. I am a 3.1 GPA student with a 1080 on my SATs, and I am the starting catcher on the varsity baseball team. I play my summer ball for the Shrub Oak Athletic Club, and I've researched Stonehill. I love that it's outside of Boston. It's about 3 hours from here, and I'm really interested in studying communications. I would like to know if you or one of your coaches has 10 or 15 minutes before or after practice, after my campus tour, to talk to me and my family for a couple of moments to see if we might be a right fit. I look forward to hearing from you. My cell phone is, and thanks so much for the time. Does that sound like a pre-qualified message?
Can you repeat that again?
I think that's a pretty pre-qualified message. And I will tell you that these coaches, here's another fact. These coaches, when they open up their inbox many of whom do not get their emails on their phone. Because if you are not full-time oftentimes at a college, they're not going to give you that accessibility. You have to be a full-time employee. So they're not checking it like we are instantly and all day long. They're going to open up their inbox and there could be 100 emails. And 89 of them are from these BS third-party solicitors who are trying to frighten you into having sign up for their service because they're going to find your son or daughter a place to play. It's a joke. They're sharks in tracksuits. You don't need them. I promise you, you could do this yourself. And I'm not saying that those organizations don't do their job. And for those of you that did sign up, look, I get it. There is a little case of it is what it is and you move on. But when they tell you, look, I found a place for you to play. It's in Buffalo. 6 hours from here with 12,000 students. Well, I want 4 hours from here with 7,000. Well, you hired me to find you a place to play. I did. There's no refunds, buyer beware. You don't need that. You can leave that voicemail. And you're going to leave it for the head coach. And then you're going to call the associate head coach and the assistant coach and the graduate assistant coach. And then you're going to follow up with an email to all 4 of them. And then 10 days is going to go by, and you're not going to hear. And so you're going to pick up the phone and do it again. So let me ask you. I'll ask you. So you just did everything I just said. You left the voicemail 4 times. You sent the email 4 times. You don't hear back in 10 days. All you did was say, I'm looking at your school. You're introducing yourself. You and your family are going up, and do they have 10 or 15 minutes? If they don't call and email you back, did they do that because they don't like who you are as a player?
No,
Why?
because it's not their it's not a full-time job, as you said.
What haven't they seen?
They haven't seen what's the word? Bro?
It's simple. They haven't seen you what?
They haven't seen you play.
Exactly. So they can't be making a judgment on your talent. They're not classifying this off of who you are on the field. They're classifying this because they don't have enough time. And they're not Alabama football recruiting 2023s. They're looking for people who are seniors now. That's who they're focused on. The kids that are coming up on those college trips. And you know what? The head coach or the associate head coach, that might not be their job. That's why they have an assistant or a graduate assistant to facilitate that initial meeting. You go into that car dealership, the general managers will come out and introduce themselves. You meet the sales rep. And as the process moves on, maybe you get to the GM. It's the same thing. You're pre-qualifying yourself. We have to remember that. And so inevitably, you're going to call and you're going to email again. And I'll tell you this, Mom and Dad. This is a buyer's market. You can blame agents for running the prices up and why your Yankees tickets are so expensive. I get it. People say, oh, that's the sport, that's the business. You know what's a business? College. College athletics. I talked about the numbers. I talked about how much it's going to be. They're going to play D2. They're going to play D3. They're not going to be on athletic scholarships. You are still paying for them to play. That's a business. So, you know what colleges need? They need students that can get into their school, and they need mom and dads who can pay for it. That's what they need. And so it's a buyer's market because you can go wherever your child gets in and whatever you can afford. That is where you can really dig in and actually have some leverage. We are so frightened, and I say we because I was too, about saying the wrong thing to the coach, about not putting ourselves in the best position. Well, what if they think this, or what if they do that? It's a buyer's market. You need to know that, and I believe you need to control the narrative. So you finally send that second round of calls and emails, and you hear back from someone. What's your first name?
Javon.
Devon? You have to think about that first name?
Javon.
Oh, Javon, excuse me. Javon, so that coach gets back to you and they say, hey man, that's awesome. I love the fact that you're going to be there. I'll give you 15 minutes at 4:30. Okay? So let's sit down. Let's get together. In the meantime, can you send me a blank? What's blank? It's not transcript.
Video.
A video, right? And you're going to respond, absolutely, coach. I'll send you a video. What would you like to blank? See. Because the coach at Stonehill is going to be different than the coach at Hood, which is going to be different than the coach at Oneonta. They all might want to see something different. And because enough people here spend $1,000 on some fancy highlight video set to jazzy music and exciting graphics, ignoring that these devices that you pay so much money for and have video of, yeah, how about taking 15, 30, 45 seconds of video? These coaches, they teach. They want to see practice. They don't need to see the goal behind the head, butt out, close your eyes, 500-foot home run. They want to see what kind of player you are, how you're going to develop. They get you're a junior. They get you're a senior. They get that the jump to play at college is going to be considerable. They want to see what kind of player you are. And by asking the coach, what do you want to see? They'll tell you. Show me this drill. I want to see this on tape. And that video, you got plenty of it. You can tailor it. And then you're going to email it back in fairly real time. And you are corresponding. You are recruiting yourself. And that coach is dialed in on a student that called him or her that wants to go to the school, did their research, pre-qualified themselves. That coach is going to take you far more seriously than the blanket email to as many schools as we can or one of these third-party services who are getting compensated to do the work for you. You're going to cut through and get to the front of the line and put yourself in front of a coach. That is the process. That's what it sounds like. That's what it's written like. They will respond, and that's how you get who you are in front of them for literally $0. Let me tell you what that meeting's going to look like. I feel like I'm picking on you, but this is what it's going to look like. You've toured the campus. Now, one of two things is going to happen at the end of the tour. The first thing that can happen is you absolutely loved it. You can't get here fast enough. You loved the campus, you checked out the chemistry lab, you tasted the food, you strolled the grounds. This is the place for you. Or there is no shot I'm going to this school. And that's okay. Because when the tour ends at 3:45 and your meeting's at 4:30 with the coach, I know everybody wants to jump on the highway and get home and beat the traffic, but there is a little something to, Coach, listen, I'm Mark, I'm your 4:30 appointment. I just wanted to say that I toured the campus, and while it's probably great for someone else, it's probably not going to be the right fit for me. I know you're super busy. I just wanted to thank you for the offer, and I wish you the best of luck. That coach, especially coming from a student athlete who, quite frankly, is probably incapable of having that conversation, but by doing that, and making that professional gesture, one, the coach is going to remember it. Two, they've got enough to do, so it's not like, this 4 o'clock appointment is going to be like ruining their day. But three, there's a really good chance that if that's the kind of school you're looking for, they're probably going to be in the same conference as you, the same region as you, and you're going to cross paths with that coach again. We all want to play these exciting college summer teams. You get a chance to go, live in Vermont for the summer because you're going to play on some travel exclusive team that you got nominated for by your coach. Well, guess who the coach of that summer team might be? The same one who you said, Coach, thanks but no thanks, and I appreciate the opportunity. That's just being a pro. That's being an agent. You got to do that. But we're going to go with option A. We're going to say that you love the campus. And they're going to look you in the eye and they're going to say, listen, I am so happy to hear you loved it here. And we've only got a couple of minutes, so let's go through a couple of questions. I watched your video. I think you're a pretty good player. You go to a school with 700. Aside from the fact that I can argue that at a school with 700 students, could you even compete with an Arlington that's got 4,000 students? So what I don't want to do is talk about your athleticism and how you led the league in goals or why you were the best defensive player of the year. This is what I want to know. What kind of person are you? Who are you going to be on my team? Because I'm going to tell you, you'll compete as a freshman, but you're going to sit on the bench. Are you the kind of person that's going to show up 15 minutes early or 15 minutes late? Are you going to have your cell phone on during my meeting, or is it going to be in your bag, off and tucked away? If you are at the pool party, or you're with your girlfriends, and someone's going to say, we should jump off the roof into the pool because everyone else is doing it, do you have the presence of mind to say, this is an awful idea, and let's go home, or are you going to dare the person to do it? Who are you? Character matters. And if you are not equipped to answer questions that have nothing to do with sports and a lot more like the ones I'm giving you, like I said, you're not making the team that day, but you're getting cut from it, and here's why. Mom and dad, those coaches, when your kids are freshmen, they're not just coaches, they are professional babysitters. They are taking kids that are away from home for the first time, that are homesick, that are going to be exposed to extracurriculars, and you know what I mean. They are babysitters. And they've got 5 spots on the team, 36 kids trying out. Why am I taking this one? Because on a team of 20, 3 players are studs. Think of the own teams you play for. I don't care what sport. There's always 1, 2, maybe 3. They're studs. What about the rest of the team? You can't field a team with 3 people on a basketball court, a baseball field, whatever. The other 17 of those 20 all look the same. Their athletic margin of difference is this. Maybe they are the best practice player. Maybe they are the super responsible kid, starting in that meeting that I'm describing. That when the coach is stuck in traffic, can text and say, get everybody on the field and get them stretched. I'm in traffic, I want to get going the moment we get there. You never know how you can make a college team. You never know the impression that you make that could last. Especially when there's two players that look exactly the same at the tryout. Who wins? You've got to be prepared for that interaction. I don't think a lot of people are talking about what we're talking about tonight. We know what we're looking for, 7,000 within 4 hours. Math, English, warmer weather. And we have qualified ourselves to have correspondence with these coaches. They are going to bring you back. They're going to ask you for schedules. Then you're going to narrow the field down from 7 to 5 to 3 to 2, and then ultimately 1. When you get to those 2, that's when you ask these two gentlemen to help. It's down to option A or option B, and they're tied. Them calling and making an endorsement on you after 2 or 3 or 4 interactions doesn't always have to be a live meeting. That is a separator. Asking them to start this process from inning number 1, completely irresponsible. Unfair. And better for them to call than your coach, because the coaches, in my opinion, they have a little like, what's in it for them? They love to say, oh, I'm the reason why this kid's playing at this school. Like, the egos of coaches are absurd. They're going to give an honest, unbiased opinion. And you know what that coach is going to ask? I've watched the video. Your school is 700 people. We have a college campus that recruits from 7 states in a region. We're going to play against 20 and 21-year-old men and women. Can this kid compete? I think they can compete. Tell me about their character. That's what they're going to ask for. And when we get to the social media part of this, you're going to find out real fast how much character matters. Okay, so I think everybody's with me so far? All right, we're down the home stretch. Now this is where mom and dad participate. Can you read for me what A says on your sheet toward the bottom?
Financially investing in academics, 10% of class, tutor versus showcase club teams.
Okay, so the academic component in this model, I cannot stress enough. Here's why. We already talked about the percentages of how challenging it is going to be to get an athletic scholarship. And anyone that tells you that they got a full athletic scholarship is lying to you. Because even I, who represent Jordan Montgomery, who went to the University of South Carolina and earned a scholarship, was a national champion at South Carolina for baseball, that was drafted in the 4th round and got to the big leagues 3 years later. He got a third of a baseball scholarship. There's just not enough money to go around to hand out full athletic scholarships. Do players get supplemented with other things? Yes, but the athletic component, it ain't full. So your money is going to come from elsewhere. Academics. I just told you I think you're spending $10,000 over 4 or 5 years. I'm asking you to take 10%, 1,000 of that 10 grand. You can still use the 9 grand for the white whale unicorn called an athletic scholarship. Chase it, okay? The 1,000 is going to go to tutors. To take the kid from a 2.9 to a 3.2, from a 3.3 to a 3.7, from a 1080 on the SAT to a 13.10, from a 23 on the ACT to a 29. Give them that opportunity. We're talking what? 3 hours on a Saturday, every other Saturday for 3 to 6 months? That's an investment. And you know what's going to happen? When that kid is in front of a college admissions and they're reviewing those and like, wow, this kid went from a 2.9 as a sophomore to a 3.3 as a senior while they're playing 2 sports and volunteering in the community, I'm going to give this kid $7,500 in academic money. That's a scholarship. It doesn't come with a fancy sweatshirt that you can wear to the Stop and Shop and boast to all your friends and neighbors about how we're playing at this sport at this Division I school. It doesn't come with the sweatshirt, but it's $7,500 off the bottom line on a $1,000 investment. And when I tell you, for the athletes in this room, you guys are all sports fans. You girls watch professional sports, and we all see the bonehead play. And what is it called? Mental mistake. How do you make that mistake? Well, I'll argue that if you take these students and make them smarter in their classrooms, in those aptitude tests, they will be better analytical thinkers on the field. When the game's on the line, they'll make the better decision. So not only did you make them academically smarter, I'll argue you made them better student athletes on the field, in the situation. That's one reason. That's it. I'll tell you another reason. When you're running off to Hartford or Providence instead of being in that class for 3 hours every other Saturday, everything we described tonight, that's going to be more than likely in the fall of their senior year. And she's going to go up on that campus and love it, meet the coach, send the video. It's going to be high fives all the way around. Then you're going to apply. And you're not going to find out if you got in or if you got rejected until January or February. And there will be nothing more disheartening in their young lives than getting the rejection letter of the school of their top choice. I will say, Mom and Dad, you could have pushed them into that ACT, SAT, or tutor, not off to another showcase in Hartford. So that's it. Can you read for me B, please?
Achieving academic merit versus athletic scholarships. All money is created equal.
Okay, so any freshmen here? Any freshmen? Sophomores? I want to go with the youngest ones. Perfect. Okay, look, we're back to you. We're kind of back to the top of the order, right? Okay, if I had 100 singles, right? George Washington, I'm holding just a bunch of singles right here. Like I just went through a toll booth, okay? They don't even exist anymore, actually. These kids don't even know what I mean. 100 singles here. But I'm holding a $100 bill, you know, with Benjamin Franklin on it in this hand. Do they have the same value? Yes, okay? The monetary value is the same. Nobody is putting the 100 singles in their purse or their wallet. It's not nearly as sexy, and it's just a pain in the butt. But this is flashy. This is sexy. This is the academic and merit scholarship, and this is the athletic one. They have the same value, yet nobody really wants to deal with this one. I just found you $7,500 in academic money. I said their responsibility, part 3, is getting into the community, being better people, getting off the field, getting out of the house, and volunteering. I mentioned pets. I mentioned inner city underprivileged. How about special needs? Special needs, the one common denominator among every special needs student is they did not choose to be special needs. But they love sports, so much so that New York State has leagues and affiliations for special needs students. Unified. It's a division of New York State Special Olympics. Might even be associated, if not with this school, with one of the neighboring schools. And they don't need, Mom and Dad, the pity $2,500 tax deduction check you're going to write. They need able-bodied students like the ones sitting next to you to volunteer, to be coaches, to be referees, in some cases to be teammates. And you go do that every other Saturday for 3 hours for 6 months? You don't do it because that school is going to go, whoa, how about this kid off the field? $5,000 merit scholarship. You're up to $12,500 in scholarship money, by the way. You don't do it for that reason. You do it because it makes you a better person. You learn something. You learn something about yourself. You certainly learn something about those kids. And I'll tell you another thing. I've had parents push back and be like, that doesn't sound like that would be a good fit. I don't want my son or daughter to be uncomfortable. Okay. You're going to drop a kid outside of Beacon 4 hours from here with 7,000 strangers. You don't think they're going to be uncomfortable? Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's just not that tough. Look, I don't have a master's degree in guidance counseling. And I certainly don't have an advanced athletic administration degree like your ADs. I have a PhD, though, and it's in common sense. And that's all this is. So as we come down the home stretch here, I think we've identified that we know how to find a school, we know how to communicate with that school, we know that there's other money out there, and we know how to go get it. This, to me, is probably one of the most interesting take-home points. So can you read for me what C is at the bottom of that page?
Getting cut doesn't mean collegiate athletic career is over.
Okay, so it's not over. You get cut as a freshman, I promise you it's not over, and here's why. We've already argued, even for the D2 and the D3 school, it's going to be challenging to make the team. 3 or 4 kids trying out, maybe you don't even play the position of the ones that are open. And there's 36 others that are out there fighting for those 3 or 4 spots. Okay? So, 3 things can happen at that tryout. 1, sadly, you get hurt. You're out there, you're trying to impress the coach, you dive, you twist your knee, you're out for 5.5 weeks of the 6-week tryout. Then some kid from Massapequa came out of nowhere, absolutely blew it up, just destroyed it, was unbelievable, best player of the tryout, plays the same position, you're both freshmen. You couldn't play for 5.5 weeks. The kid from Massapequa absolutely earned the spot. I'll put it this way. If you were the kid from Massapequa, you would absolutely expect to make that team. So you get cut. Injuries are part of the game. Or, I've referenced it before. Coach comes, says, hey everybody, I want to bring everybody in real quick, into the tryouts. I haven't posted the names. I wanted to let you know. I just took the associate head coach's job at Holy Cross. Today's my last day. They'll start a search for a new coach. They're going to try out everybody again. So I wish you the best, and thanks for the opportunity. New coach comes in. This is the coach that you were jiving with, the one that we were on that meeting with. That coach is gone. It's not the same chemistry, and all of a sudden, you either get cut or you just hate it. You're not going to play for them. I played for 3 coaches in 4 years at Stone. And then the last one we've already also referenced. You're going to be up against 20 and 21-year-old men. I don't care if you played 8th grade and varsity, those 20 and 21-year-old women are going to set out to destroy you. And you just might take a huge poop down your leg because you are overmatched and overwhelmed and cannot compete. And that's why I believe it's important when you're going on these trips to make sure you are watching the practices and really getting a feel for how good these players are. Big, fast, strong, smart. It's a different level even at the worst Division III school in the country. Okay? So when that happens, should it happen, you have 2 choices. Choice A would be, sadly what too many people do, blame everybody else, take 0 accountability, take their ball, go home, and disappear for 11 months until next year's tryout. Sure, you could do that. Or you could do this. Coach, I realize you just cut me. I'm not here to fight you on your decision. I'm just telling you that this sport's a part of my DNA. I just want to be a part of this program. You want me to set up the cones in practice. You want me to do the advanced analytics. You want me to help with the travel and just managing the overall schedule. Whatever it is, I am here as a volunteer assistant to help out this program. You got a coach who isn't full-time, who does not have full-time assistants, who's overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated, who has this eager beaver freshman that they just cut, willing and offering the opportunity to just be an extra set of eyes, hands, ears, the whole deal. That coach is saying, show up tomorrow at 4 o'clock and I'll find something for you to do. And now you're around the program, albeit not as a player, but you're around the program. You're learning from the coaches. You're making yourself a better player. You're involved. And I will tell you, Mom and Dad, for, I guess, the sake of we can just send them home into an environment with 7,000 strangers and just dabble in whatever they want to dabble in because that structure that they've had for almost a decade is out the window. Or you can have, they have friends by default, teammates, they have surrogate parents by default, coaches. Their structure remains intact. I would encourage them to do this. And so now you're around the program a year, you come back to Beacon next summer, you get bigger and faster and stronger and smarter because you're going to play summer ball, and then you try out again in that fall as a sophomore. And you're up against the same kid that just took off for 11 months. Who's got a better chance of making the team in the fall? The kid that took off for 11 months and blamed everybody and just took 0 accountability, or the student, option B, who was around the program with the coaches, was invested in it, came back and tried out as sophomore? Who's making the team? A or B? B. So you play 3 years. You weren't going to play that much as a freshman anyway. You didn't miss much. You didn't have to carry the equipment and deal with all the stuff freshmen have to deal with because you're a staff member. So that's my thought on look, it's not over. And if you choose for it to be over and you pick the right college, the right size of the school, distance from home with the right majors, the right minors, the right extracurriculars, and the sport goes away, because at some point the sport is going to go away. Whether you make the decision or not, you're on the right campus for the right reason. And for me, that's what it's all about. So we are so close to being finished, but I need 2 students, without me having to ask them to come up, to just come up and help me. I need 2 students to come hand these out, please. Who's a captain? Perfect. So this is a good time to just ask, because when I tell you we're down the home stretch, I'm going to make a couple of points that have less to do with anything we were talking about tonight, but absolutely relevant to where we are in society. So any questions at all? Any? All right, so I'll fire you through some questions that are oftentimes the most popular. Go measure your talent, get eyes on these programs, we talked about that. What a college coach might ask, well, you should be asking a college coach. Well, at the bottom of your handout is the website. It's my website. I'm not here to sell you anything. Everything has been done. It's completely educational. There's a lot of great questions. What you should ask a coach, what they're going to ask you. Any of this that we've talked about tonight, you've got to register with the NCAA. You want to go play D2, they're going to charge you $100. You want to play D3, they charge you nothing, but you got to register. So before you do any of what we've talked about, you actually have to go onto that website. It's on the link under the frequently asked questions. I'll just play D2, D3. Those teams are easy to make. I think we have a better understanding and appreciation for those levels. Do I need a video? We discussed that. Look, playing in college is a full-time job, even that worst Division III program. You're going to get up at 5:30 in the morning, you're going to practice at 6, it's going to end at 8, you're going to have a class at 8:30 that ends at 10, another class from 10:30 to noon, another class from 12:30 to 2, then you're going to be back in the weight room at 4. You'll get done at 5:30, you'll go eat, you'll play Fortnite, you'll Snapchat with your friends, you'll do some homework, and then you'll do it again 6 days over a 7-day week for 6 consecutive weeks, and then when that's done, you'll play 40 games in 50 days. That's college athletics for the worst Division III program. Might not be as fun, might not be as glamorous, might not be what everybody's expectations were walking into that. But it's real. Another fact. And the last one is people think that I'm anti-showcase. I'm not. What I'm anti is going to these events that you're paying for and expecting that a white whale unicorn called the Division I scholarship is going to show up, regardless of how many swings we take. So now that we know what we're looking for, and we opened this with our sons and our daughters wanting to play D2 and D3, how about looking at the roster of schools that are going to be at the showcase? And if they don't list them, contact the administrator. And if the administrator says, we don't give that information, I wouldn't spend my money there, because plenty will. And of those 20 schools that are scheduled to have coaches there, you do your due diligence in advance. Find the schools that match the criteria we just spent an hour and 10 minutes looking at, and target those schools at the end. Mom and dad, they're on the field, on the court, in the pool. Your job is to earmark the coaches. There's the Stonehill coach, there's the Oneonta coach, there's the Hood coach. They come off. It's like a track meet. These coaches can't get to their cars fast enough, okay? So go cut them off. Get your student in front, your son or your daughter in front of that coach. Hi, coach, just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Mark. I'm number 31. Stonehill's on my list of schools that I want to visit. I just wanted to say hi, and I was planning on calling or emailing you, but with the opportunity, wanted to see if you had a card, and that coach is going to be blown away with that interaction. Everything we've talked about tonight is cutting the line. With something like that, you're literally one of the first 3 people in line. So I'm not anti-showcase, providing that it is executed the right way. Get them out of the New York area. Go to a showcase in Baltimore. Go to a showcase in Manchester, New Hampshire. Take them out of the bubble. I told you, those programs, they're going to draw from 7 states. They're going to play against kids from outside of regions. There's some really talented athletes outside of this region. Challenge them. And have them walk around that college campus. A lot of showcases around college campuses. Don't just go to the field. Tour the campus. See what it's going to look like to go from A to B to C to D, because they're used to walking 150 feet down a hall, not 3/4 of a mile in somehow like 20 minutes to get to a class. That's all where showcases come in. I promised you I was going to give you a Division I scholarship, and here it is. I'm a college coach, I'm a Division I coach, and I call you your senior year and notify you that you had a great season, that you popped up on our radar late, and we just had a decommit. So we have 1/4 of a scholarship that we want to offer you, a Division I athletic quarter scholarship at Central Connecticut State University in Hartford, valued at $8,000. Now let's run through some facts. Central Connecticut State has 35,000 students. That's 5 times bigger than the school we want. Central Connecticut State is about an hour away, 60 miles. We want to be 3 hours further than that. Central Connecticut State is a school known for secondary education, not for math and not for English, even though it's a great school for secondary education. Central Connecticut State is in Hartford. The winter in Hartford is the same winter here and the same winter in Boston. The spring starts way later in Hartford than it does in Baltimore. And once they start paying you on a year-to-year scholarship, it's really a full-time job. And you don't travel 2 hours to play your opponent. You travel by plane. And you might play 2 games in 4 or 5 days and miss a lot of school. Forget about number 5. Focus only on 1 through 4. We're 0 for 4 on what we've spent all night looking for. You found the perfect college that has 7,000 students with 4 hours away, that has English and math, and in a warmer weather climate, and I got you $12,500? And you're going to go play D1 Central Connecticut State with 35,000 students for a lesser scholarship? Why? Because of ego. And these students told me from the beginning they want to play D2 and D3. I got you Division I scholarship. The decision is yours. 100 times out of 100 in my opinion. you take that school that we found that profile for. All right, so there's a bunch of photos in front of you. We're literally done. This is the last part of the presentation. Without question, it is the most important part of the presentation. For all of the students, I want you to look at that picture. And I want you to describe for me what that kid would hear if he were walking down these hallways. I'm not saying you would describe that kid that way, but the kid 3 lockers down, the teammate of yours that's a real wisecrack troublemaker, how would you describe that student? Okay? Give me the honest, what your eyes see, physical descriptions. What do you got, ladies? What do you think people would call that kid? He's what? Don't be shy. You guys have participated all night. You hear it every day. He's what?
Quiet.
He's what?
Quiet.
He's quiet? Okay. That's not a physical attribute.
Oh, it's
He's
physical.
gay.
Oh.
Gay.
Gay. He's gay. What else? Come on, weird. So he's gay and weird. What else? Come on, you got something. I know it's on the tip of your tongue. What is he? Is he skinny? What is he? Say it. He's chunky. But would you say chunky? Would you say chunky? Or would you say fat? There's the gay, weird, fat kid. Does he look cool? He looks like a what?
Looks positive vibes.
Positive vibes, but looks like what? A
Nerd.
geek, a dork. So we've got this gay, dork, fat. Does he look athletic or unathletic? Unathletic? Okay, so we've got this kid who walks down these hallways every single day. Doesn't matter if it's a boy, doesn't matter if it's a girl. And those kids hear those kinds of remarks every single step of the way. They get absolutely crucified with it. And unlike 30 years ago, because those remarks are not jokes, those remarks are just being playful and messing around, those remarks are bullying. And it is an epidemic to the tune of television shows like 13 Reasons Why that have to make a story about that, and the ending of the first season is not a pleasant one. And you don't have to watch that show. You can read the newspaper or turn on the news. It is a problem that kids that hear those kinds of remarks every single day in every high school, sadly middle school, now all the way down to elementary school, are taking the most drastic of measures to making the bullying go away. It is real. And it is a huge problem. And so, because the people in front of me tell me that they want to be an athlete in college, I have to assume you're a pretty good player here. Thus, you're a student athlete. Thus, you're a leader. Thus, as a leader on the field, your social responsibility is to be a leader off of it. Your job is to protect the kid that is being bullied, to step in and intervene. That is your job. Why? Because those bullies, unlike 30 years ago, who could be confronted by friends or older siblings or even parents, that doesn't exist anymore. I'll tell you why it doesn't exist. It's because, where did I put it? Where's my phone? Because of this. And I just called it inappropriately and inaccurately a phone. This isn't a phone. It's a weapon. And I'll tell you why it's a weapon. Because those bullies, they're on Facebook, they're on Snapchat, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram. They are selfish, and they are faceless. And those kids on those devices are destroying the fabric of our society. And they are making those bullied kids make the most extreme of decisions. And if you think this is a joke, aside from, oh, we were just messing around, we took a picture of the girl in the locker room, half dressed, oh, we took a picture of the kid getting pantsed in the hallway, let me tell you what that's called. When you get a knock on your door because you're part of a group text that involves a photo like that, that knock ain't coming from your parents. It's not coming from your AD or your principal. It's coming from the police. Do you know why it's coming from the police? Because that is child pornography. And good luck getting through life as a 16-year-old who's now officially a sex offender. That ain't coming off your record because you guys thought it would be funny to take a picture of a kid half-dressed in a locker room. You want to watch your college dreams go away real fast? A lot more than your college dreams are going to go away real fast. And if you don't think that a Division III coach at the smallest school in the country isn't going to scrub your social media, check out what you wrote on Twitter, what you post on Instagram, what you write on Facebook, they're going to put their livelihood on the line. They're going to take a risk on what you decided to write 3 or 4 years ago because you were quoting some rap music, or, you were just joking around saying, oh, this is gay, or, hey, X, Y, or Z. Yeah, that's homophobic. That's racist. You got no shot. That happens every day. And if you think I'm making any of this up, go home tonight and Google any one of these keywords, and you will see high school programs across the country that have been decimated based on these activities, and you will have seen kids that have gone to jail based on it. And if you think that just because you're on that group thread and you didn't respond, you're not getting dragged into that police station, you are surely mistaken. This is real. This is real. So whether it's the phone issue that you guys think is fairly harmless, and mom and dad, I think you really have to have better sense of what's going on those phones, or whether it's the bullying. Your job is to protect that kid, the kid who is being bullied. Step up and be a leader. It's not hard to walk down the hallway. It's not hard to sit in the cafeteria. It is not hard to invite them out with you socially. I promise you, it is not that tough. And I'll tell you a little something about Carmel. You may as well hear it now. You want to go be a freshman at a college that has 20 and 21-year-old men and women on it? Those 20 and 21-year-olds, junior and seniors, they're going to tease you, they're going to haze you, they're going to bully you. And you're going to lay in bed, sobbing, on a campus, 4 hours from home, with 7,000 strangers and 0 friends, saying, why are they treating me like this? Oh, maybe you should have thought about how you treated people here in this community. It's called Carmel. It's real. That's another fact. So because I realize that the bully, and I'm not suggesting it's the athlete, but I am aware that the one who is being bullied, the one who is hearing those names, the one who is trying to fight through their day-to-day, is sometimes an athlete. I get it. Maybe they're in this room. I understand that's part of this process too. And when I tell you that picture that you're holding in your hand, that kid, he's here tonight. He's not in the back of the room. He's been talking to you for an hour and a half. So the fat, gay-looking, nerdy, unathletic dork turned out to be a major league agent, played 4 years at a college, was the captain, has spent 20 years in the game, represents 3 big league all-stars, and he's talking to you tonight. I'm living proof that a bully does not define who you are. I'm living proof to say that if you were to go athletically up against an opponent who has got 2 things, courage and confidence, you're up for a tough battle. Well, let me tell you something. If you can face any bully with courage and confidence, it's Teflon. They can't get to you. I promise you. And every single one of you, do something special. You have a gift inside. You have to figure out what it is. You have to develop it, harness it, cherish it, use it, embrace it, because that's going to become your confidence. This is real life, real world stuff. Please do not let the bully tell you who you are or what you are. Be who you are, who you know you are, and what you want to be. And overall, as a group, this includes mom and dad, the bullying epidemic is so out of control, there is only one way to overcome it. We, as a group, have to make sure we are not part of the problem and absolutely positively part of the solution. I am done. Thank you so much for all of your time.